Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. That's Arya Stark of Winterfell, my lord. Tywin remembered very clearly the moment he heard those words from Petyr Baelish. It brought a mix of emotions, both triumph and frustration. Triumph that they had another bargaining chip in this war, two Stark girls instead of one. Frustration that he had not seen it sooner. He knew she was from the north. He knew she was a noble girl by her speech and education. He knew she was on the run from something. All of those pieces should have connected far sooner. Perhaps they would have, had he not been so focused on stopping her damned brother and his Northmen. Arya Stark, right under my nose, he thought. I wonder if she has been reading our letters. She was a smart girl, traveling as a boy and keeping her head low, but she was just a bit too smart for her own good. It showed. It made her obvious. He would have been willing to let her slip by if she was any other northern girl. Not Arya Stark, however. You wouldn't have known, of course, Littlefinger continued. You never met the girl, or any of the Stark children for that matter. No, Tywin said. Shall I bring her to you? Littlefinger asked. I can arrange for... No, Tywin said. She'll be along shortly. I'll handle her then. I can handle this on my own. Lord Baelish inclined his head. I'll leave to you then. In the meantime, I shall go to Highgarden to negotiate with the Tyrells. Good, Tywin said. Make sure they do not declare for anyone but King Joffrey. Tywin did not act immediately on Lord Baelish's words. Not yet. He wanted to see how well the girl lied when he tested her. He asked her questions, wondering if she would give herself away. If you're going to pose as a commoner, you should do it properly. My mother served Lady Dustin for many years. My lord, she taught me how to speak properly. She was a quick liar, but easy to see through. She reminded him very much of Cersei when she was younger. Daring and utterly disdainful of the role society laid out for her as a woman. Yet, as the daughter of a great noble house, there was very little that she could do. He let her play her game for a little longer, until the winds of war changed and it came time to move out again. When his generals left the room to prepare and Arya began to slip away, Tywin stopped her. Girl, come here a moment. Arya's mind was racing. Lord Tywin meant to ride out that night, and she had to find Jaqen before he did. If she could kill him, perhaps that would cripple the Lannister army in the fight against Robb. It was a good choice, she knew, the best possible choice for her third name. The Lord of House Lannister was surprising. She had heard many awful stories about him, and while he was certainly a man to be feared, she did not fear him as much as she should. She hated him, primarily for his name and for his campaign against her brother, but he had done little to wrong her personally. He was miles away when Joffrey took her father's head. His was a strange inclusion, her list, because she did not yet have something to blame him for. But she would do it. She would find Jaqen and give him the name. Girl, come here a moment. Arya paused, fighting the urge to curse under her breath. She had to find Jaqen as soon as possible. Slowly she turned to face Tywin. Yes, my lord. Tywin motioned for her to sit across from him. It was clearly not a suggestion. Slowly, Arya moved toward the table, perching herself on the edge of her chair, in case she needed to make an escape. He seemed to notice. Are you planning to run? Tywin tilted his head to the side. What do you think I am going to do with you? Arya shook her head. She didn't know, but something about this did not feel right. Do you mean to take me with you? As your cupbearer. I do plan to take you with me. Yes. Tywin held her gaze. What's your name, girl? You never said. The question threw Arya off guard. He had never asked, and she thought he never would. She scrambled for an answer, saying the first name that came to mind. Jane. Pull, she managed. Tywin's mouth twitched. You seem uncertain of that. I'm not, Arya said firmly. It's Jane Poole. You're lying, Tywin said. Let's try, once again. Tell me your name. Icy dread spread through Arya's chest, and her hands shook. He looked at her with the eyes of a man who already knew the answer. Do you already know my name? My lord? She murmured. Yes, Tywin said. I do. I may not have known your face, but Lord Baelish did. You must have suspected he would. You got very tense around him. Arya swallowed a lump in her throat. Then she tried to bolt. He had predicted this. He stood at the same moment she did, holding her fast by her shoulders, She twisted and struggled in his grip, but it did not give. Her size worked against her here. He was much stronger than her. "Let me go," she demanded. "You know I'm not going to do that," Tywin said. Arya squirmed and tried to wiggle free, but his grip only tightened like a vice around her. "Settle yourself, Lady Arya. You'll never make it out of here without at least one of my soldiers catching you, and they might not treat you as kindly." Arya's heart beat a fast pace against her chest. She wanted to fight him off, to claw his eyes out. She wanted a wolf's form to break through her small human shape and rip out his throat. But caught in the lion's jaws, she felt more like a helpless girl. She stilled, drawing in a few deep breaths. He looked down at her. "Are you done?" Arya gave a small nod. Tywin kept his grip for a moment longer. Then he let her go. "Good. Sit." Arya sank slowly into her chair. "You've known since Littlefinger came." "Yes," Tywin said. "Then why didn't you mention it earlier?" she asked. "It was not necessary then," Tywin said. "And I wanted to see how well you would lie." Arya looked up at him. "How did I lie?" "Well enough," Tywin said. "For someone who comes from so honest a family." He tilted his head to the side. "You must hate me deeply. A wonder you did not poison my cup." "I hate your family," Arya agreed. "They killed my father." "King Joffrey did kill your father." "Yes," Tywin said. "It was a dreadfully stupid thing to do. Your father could have been the key to making peace with the North. I very much wish he was alive." "Not as much as I do," Arya murmured. Tywin observed her for a long moment. "No, not as much as you do." "I was there that day," Arya said. "Even after my father gave him his confession and said everything he wanted, he still took his head because the crowd wanted it." Her hands clenched into fists. "I would kill him if I could, I imagine, but you can't," Tywin said. "Kings die all of the time," Arya said. "Everyone dies." "You should mind that tongue of yours," Tywin said. "Being so honest is what gets you Starks in trouble." "I'm already in trouble," Arya said. "You know my name. You won't give me a chance to escape." "I won't," Tywin agreed. "Will you send me back to King's Landing?" Arya asked. "I've thought about it," Tywin said. "I don't suppose it would be a pleasant experience for you. Kept a captive in the Red Keep with your sister. Joffrey does despise you for that business with your wolf. I can't imagine he would treat you kindly. I don't think my daughter likes you very much either." "I don't like her," Arya muttered. "Yes, but she has more power in this situation, so how you feel doesn't matter," Tywin said. Arya shivered. Truthfully, the thought of returning to the Red Keep terrified her. What would they do to her there, now that her father was not around to protect her? Sansa was still alive. It amazed her that she had managed it this long. Arya wasn't sure how long she would last without wanting to throw herself from the tower. "I can offer you an alternative," Tywin said. "One that might be more favorable to you." Arya raised an eyebrow. "Will you let me go?" "Of course not. I'm not stupid. But I might need you as a bargaining chip on the battlefield. You could continue to pose as my nameless cupbearer for a time. I won't let you out of my sight, and neither will my generals." He leaned forward. "But if you try to run, you will be caught, and I will ship you back to King's Landing to be at the mercy of Joffrey and his mother." Arya pressed her lips together in a tight line. If she could pick her companions, she far preferred Tywin. He seemed to tolerate her at least, even when she was careless with her words. Not to mention, being on the battlefield could put her closer to Robb. She knew Tywin would not tolerate an escape attempt, though. He would keep her carefully guarded. "Well?" Tywin asked. Arya nodded once. "I will take your offer, my lord." Tywin nodded once, as if he expected this. "I don't imagine you have any possessions to gather." Arya shook her head. Everything had been taken from her long ago. Her sword, her family, now her freedom. She had nothing left but her own name. Even that seemed cursed. "Good," Tywin said. "We ride tonight." The girl changed everything about this war, though she did not even know it yet. Suddenly, Tywin had a second bargaining chip, one that no one else knew about. He could bring her out at any time, whenever it most suited his needs. She was a pawn on his board now, and he knew she must hate him for it. She would hate him more before this war ended, especially if he used her against her family. There was still the matter of Jaime, of course. He could not use the Stark daughters to sue for peace. When the Starks had Jaime, if they had no hostage, it would be a different story. He would hold all the cards, and though Robb Stark talked a strong game, he was loyal to his family. He would not choose war over the lives of his sisters. His mother would not either. In the meantime, Tywin found Arya Stark far more tolerable company, as his cupbearer than any of his generals. They were all worthless, it seemed, when they lost even a few hours of sleep. No one had any ideas on how to fight the young wolf or Stannis Baratheon, who was planning attack on King's Landing very soon. He found himself staring furiously at a map long after his generals had left. Only Arya remained, collecting empty cups of wine. "When will Stannis attack King's Landing?" she asked. She was bolder with questions now that he knew her name. She knew that he could not harm her yet. "Soon," Tywin said. "But if we leave to deal with him, we give your brother too much ground." Arya shrugged. "Well, you can't deal with my brother before Stannis." Tywin tilted his head to the side. It seemed the girl wanted to try her hand at strategy, and after the disastrous meeting with his generals, he was inclined to hear anything. "And why is that?" "I read in a book once," Arya shifted, almost nervously, as if she had not expected him to actually ask. "When fighting a war on multiple fronts, you have to consider what those fronts want. That determines the immediate problem." "I've read the same," Tywin said. "So tell me, what does Stannis want, and what does Robb want? Let's see how she did when tested." "Stannis wants the Iron Throne," Arya said. "Robb wants the North. Stannis is trying to take what is yours. Robb isn't." She thought for a moment. "Well, he is if you considered the North yours. It's just not as important as the Crown lands." "Correct," Tywin said. "If your brother takes back the ground we currently have, it is a loss. But not as much as the loss of King's Landing." "Then doesn't the answer seem obvious?" Arya said. Tywin almost laughed. She really was too bold for her own good. She might already be dead if he had sent her to King's Landing. If all strategy was that obvious, the war would be an easier game. Tywin said. "First, you assume that Stannis will succeed in his attack. It is possible that he will fail, and if he does, pulling our armies will be for nothing. We have to judge if it's worth the risk. Beyond that, Robb Stark may only want the North, but he's willing to attack other places to get it. He is coming for what belongs to us in order to see his demands met, and he is my son, which means he can do so without worry of me killing his sisters. He grows braver with every victory, and if we retreat, he will become braver. He might even be emboldened to march on Casterly Rock." Arya fell silent. She had clearly not thought of any of this. "You're well read," Tywin said, "but reading alone never got a man through a battle. You need experience to really know how a war is fought." "My brother doesn't have experience." She looked up at him. There was a challenge in her eyes. The damn girl really was fearless. Tywin's eyes narrowed. "There's that tongue of yours again. Be careful. I may not be Joffrey, but I meant when I said that you would regret defying me. Do not forget that. Those who have don't last long." Arya dropped his gaze and went back to cleaning up the table. There was still a flash of fear in her. If she got much braver, he might have to put an end to that. It would be a shame. Her boldness amused him. Tywin kept Arya close, and she had few opportunities to even think about escape. He slept very rarely. When he did, he assigned trusted guards to watch her. She was never alone. It was suffocating, but better than King's Landing. No one looked at her as a lady. They mostly ignored her. Only Tywin knew her true identity. She wondered his purpose for keeping such a secret. Perhaps he worried that Stark spies would find out about her and alert Robb before he was ready. He did not seem worried about her listening into any of their strategies, and he let her speak on the meetings when his generals had left. It seemed he was always testing her. She did not mind being tested. Her obsession with history and warfare was always dismissed as unladylike by Septa Morden. Her father would discuss it with her, but even he was reluctant to let her dwell on dreams of being a warrior. Tywin let her speak about her interests quite openly. She wasn't used to that. "It seems you studied your history far more than your sewing," Tywin commented one late evening. "I was always terrible at sewing," Arya said. "Septa Morden said I had no eye for detail." "That doesn't seem to be true," Tywin said. "You remember all of the names of the Targaryens and the battles and their dragons. You even know the names of their swords. Even I cannot boast that. It was the wrong kind of detail for me to know," Arya said. "But yes, I remembered. I always wanted a dragon and a named sword." "Naturally, you got neither," Tywin said. "That's not true," Arya said. "I had a sword with a name. My brother gave it to me. I called it Needle." Tywin laughed once. His laughs always sounded harsh and joyless, like he hadn't practiced them enough. I thought you weren't good at sewing. Arya almost smiled in return. I was getting good with that needle. I had a teacher. Father called him a dancing master, so that no one would know. Did he? Tywin said, Where is this needle of yours now? One of your men took it from me, Arya said. Polliver, I think his name was, I don't know if he still has it. It's too small for him anyway. True, but he could hardly let a prisoner keep it, Tywin said. Arya shrugged and looked away. She wanted Needle back very much. It was the only thing she had of Jon. It was the only thing she had of any of her family, besides memories. In any case, it would not do to give you a sword now, Tywin said. Because I'm a girl? Arya muttered. No, because I don't trust you with one, Lady Arya. You may be a little wolf, but you are a wolf all the same. In spite of herself, Arya grinned. She liked to be thought of as a wolf. People used to call her wild as an insult, but she always saw it as a compliment. Strong women were often wild. So were dragons. More than once, Arya found herself fighting smiles in Tywin's presence. The head of House Lannister never smiled, but he did seem consistently amused with her. Arya was not sure if that was a good thing or not. He had his boundaries, of course. She dared not talk about his son, still imprisoned in Robb's camp. She dared not talk of Robb's victories. Most of all, she dared not try to escape. She had seen his kindness for people who broke their word. He hung the lucky ones. Others did not end so well. In any case, Tywin was not her biggest problem. She worried far more about the guards. He did not tell the guards who she was, only that she was important and needed to be carefully guarded. She could not be allowed to escape, but while soldiers could be trusted to keep her from escaping, they could not be trusted in some other matters. Arya noticed them leering at her. They had begun ever since they found out she was a girl. More than one asked if she was a woman grown. She did not reply. A man named Ryder was the very worst of them. He asked her all sorts of queries about who she was, but also far more invasive questions. She had never had anyone talk to her in such a way before, because she was Arya Stark, and her father would have killed the man who did it. But her identity was still a secret to others. To the guards she could be anyone. She did not sleep when he was near in case she had to claw his eyes out. She dug her nails into her palms and forced herself to stay awake, glaring at him in silence. She began to drift during meetings, as he became one of her more constant guards. Occasionally when someone asked for wine, they had to speak twice. Her mind began to blur from exhaustion. You're not sleeping, are you? Tywin asked. I sleep when I can, Arya said. And is there a reason you cannot? Tywin asked. Arya pressed her fist against the side of her leg as she lied. No reason, my lord. She would not sink to asking him for help. She was a Stark and his prisoner. The wolf should not ask for help from the lion who caught her. That night, she sat in the corner of her small tent as always, watching Ryder. He smiled back at her as her eyelids drooped. Tired girl, you haven't been sleeping well. I'm not, Arya muttered. You can sleep if you want, Ryder smirked. I won't hurt you. She dug her nails into her skin, so hard they bled. I'm not. Her eyelids were so heavy. I'm not. She woke after a few minutes of sleep, which enough for Ryder to drag her from her tent and off into the shadows of the brush. She recognized it at once and lashed out, raking her nails down his face, leaving bloody lines behind. He screamed and threw her to the ground, drawing a knife. She tried to scramble back, but he pinned her down, pressing his blade against her throat. You're not going to make a sound, you little shit. You're going to be quiet, or I'll tell Lord Tywin you tried to escape. And I'll tell him you were lying, Arya spat.
Why would he believe you?
Ryder asked. He pressed his blade threateningly to her throat. I don't know who you are, but you're a prisoner of some kind. What reason would he have to believe you? Arya gritted her teeth together, biting back her name as it rose to her lips. It wouldn't matter if she said it. He wouldn't believe her. What's all this? Someone asked from nearby. Arya looked to the side to see two soldiers on patrol. One of them was Polliver. Arya could see her sword shining at his hip. He had kept it. Ryder leapt off of her. Just having a little fun. We are not, Arya snapped. I'm Lord Tywin's prisoner. If you harm me, you'll be punished. Will we? Polliver tilted his head to the side. Malice glittered in his eyes. But I saw you escaping. We decided to teach you a lesson. Arya hissed as he walked over to her. When he leaned down to touch her face, she turned and bit down, hard on his hand. He screamed and drew back, and as he did, she seized her sword from his scabbard. Needle felt familiar in her hand, though they had parted long ago. She remembered her grip, and she remembered her teacher's words. Every one of them. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. The other guard came at her from behind, to grab her. She spun the sword and jammed it backward on instinct. The point sunk through his gut, with little resistance. As the nameless guard fell back, Ryder lunged forward, slashing at her with his knife. The blade cut a streak across her right cheek, and she backed away, right into Polliver. He turned her and punched her hard in the gut, sending her to her knees. Arya almost blacked out. No, stay awake. Stay awake. She gripped her sword with all her might. Little bitch, Ryder muttered. Hold her down for me. Stop, a voice cut through the night, like thunder from a distant, raging storm. Arya recognized the anger in Tywin's voice, and she wondered if it was at her. Perhaps he thought she had tried to escape. My lord, both of the soldiers stood at attention. Would you like to explain what you're doing? Tywin asked. She was trying to escape, Ryder said. We were teaching her a lesson. You said that escape was unacceptable. I said that if she escaped, you should bring her straight to me. Tywin looked down at Arya, an unreadable coldness in his gaze. She shook her head, unable to speak from the blow to the stomach. I didn't, she thought. I did not try to escape. But Tywin held out a hand. Give me that sword, girl. Arya handed over Needle, slowly. She wondered for a moment if he might punish her with it. But then he turned and stuck the point through Ryder's throat. Arya's eyes widened as he coughed up blood, his eyes rolling back in his head. Tywin drew the blade back and he fell to his knees, gasping for breath that would not come. Polliver's eyes widened and he took a step back as Tywin faced him. The girl is valuable to me unharmed. Therefore, anyone who harms her will receive the same treatment. Consider this a rare warning from me. Yes, my lord, Polliver muttered. I'll take that sheath at your hip, Tywin said. You won't need this sword. It's a child's toy anyway. Polliver handed it over without question. Then he hurried away as fast as he could. Tywin observed the blade for a moment longer before returned it to his sheath. You were right to name this sword, Needle. It's quite thin. Arya had regained enough breath to speak. I didn't run. He was lying. I know, Tywin said. And you lied to me about the reason for your exhaustion today. Don't do that again. I despise being lied to. Arya nodded once. Come, Tywin gestured for her to follow him. We best see to that cut on your face. The cut was minor. It might leave a scar, but it would be barely perceptible to the naked eye. That was good. Tywin needed her well, if he was going to use her as a bargaining chip. The girl watched him warily as he sat down at his desk, placing her sword in front of him. She had suspicious gray eyes. She kept looking to the sword, like a child in want of their favorite toy. No, not a toy. She had known how to use it. One man was already dead when Tywin arrived. It seemed the girl was not just playing at being a knight from a song. She was willing to kill when necessary. That made her both more dangerous and more fascinating to Tywin. The guards will not give you trouble anymore, Tywin said. If they do, they'll be deaf fools who did not heed a warning, and I will see them punished for it. Arya nodded once. She was rather silent. He wondered if the attack had scarred her. She was still very young, 13, if he remembered correctly, younger than Joffrey by 2 years. Tywin forgot that sometimes because she was quite a bit smarter. Did they take your tongue when they attacked you? Tywin asked. No, my lord, Arya murmured. Did they take anything else? Arya shook her head. They did not get the chance. Tywin nodded once. I will be awake for some time if you wish to rest. I don't want you knocking over goblets tomorrow during the meeting. Arya swallowed thickly. Yes, my lord. She glanced once more at her sword. What will you do with Needle? Keep it somewhere out of your reach, Tywin said, but it will be safe enough. You have my word. Asheria nodded once. Tywin saw more words jumping at her lips, but she was hesitant to say them. Hesitancy did not become her. You want to say something else? Speak, Tywin said. I'm in no mood to guess. Arya looked away, down at her hands. Nothing. She released a breath. Thank you, my lord, for intervening. So that was it. Retorts and dangerous comments came so easily to her, but thanks stuck in her throat, like she had never tasted the words before. Tywin supposed it was not often a wolf had cause to thank. A lion, particularly a captured wolf. You do not need to thank me, he said. You're too important for me to leave you to my men. They could have damaged you, and my son could pay the price. Understand? Arya nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. It put her out of his debt. Good, Tywin said. Now sleep. I won't ask again. She obeyed, finding another corner of the tent where she could rest. Tywin kept an eye on her until her breathing steadied, a clear sign that she had fallen asleep. Then he returned to his papers. This had been a very long war for both of them, and there was still a lot of war yet to come. Lord Baelish turned out to be useful after all. His negotiations with House Tyrell, particularly with Lady Olenna and Lady Marjorie, earned the Lannisters the army they needed to crush Stannis from behind at the Battle of Blackwater. Meanwhile, Tyrion could leave most of his army in the Riverlands to hold the line against the north. One threat was dealt with. The Baratheons were gone, or scattered, and the Tyrells brought to heel. It left them an opportunity to focus on the Starks. Arya Stark had clearly done the math on this fact. She looked more nervous of late as she listened to the battle meetings. He caught her glancing over her shoulder whenever she heard mention of her brother. There was a possibility that the war would turn, and Tywin imagined she was picturing the rest of her family's heads on spikes beside her father's. She had every right to be worried, because the Stark boy had recently made some very crucial missteps in this war. First, he had executed Richard Corstark for killing 2 young Lannister hostages. It was a proper punishment for disobeying orders, but it lost him a sizable house of allies. Second, he had married some low-born girl for love, rather than keep his vow to Lord Frey. That was unexpectedly dishonorable of Robb Stark, though expectedly stupid of a 17-year-old boy. It gave Tywin satisfaction to see that the boy was not immune to incompetence. Walder Frey did not appreciate this slight, and was more than willing to speak with Tywin on the matter. Third, he had gone and given the Greyjoy ward power in his army, and the Greyjoy boy turned on him and joined his father in rebellion. Robb Stark's home was under attack, and his younger brothers held hostage. He was stupid to trust a Greyjoy in the first place. Fourth, he had failed to notice the turn of one of his other allies. Rose Bolton had long been disillusioned with this boy king, and sought a claim to Warden of the North. The noose was tightening on the young wolf, on and off the battlefield, and he did not even know it. Tywin knew he had an opportunity to, in this war. It would not be an honorable ending, but that mattered little to Tywin. He simply wanted to see this war finished so that they could focus on preparing for winter. There would be problems following the fall of House Stark. Of course, the North was stubborn and would be difficult without a Stark in Winterfell. The Greyjoys would also be a problem, but Robb Stark would never agree to peace after his father's death, especially not when he still had Jaime. His cupbearer in disguise knew nothing of these plans of his. She would find out eventually, and hate him deeply when she did. He did not mind that. Most people hated him, but if she grew too bold in her anger, he would have to put her down. "Do you need something, my lord?" Arya asked. She had noticed him watching her. "No." Tywin rubbed his chin. "Actually, yes." An answer to a question. He leaned forward. "Your brother Robb, were you close with him?" Arya observed him suspiciously. "I'm not sure I want to answer that, my lord." "No, but you will," Tywin said. The girl looked down at her feet, as if thinking of a lie, but then she settled against it. "Yes, we were all close. I was always closest with Jon, though." "Your bastard brother." "Don't call him that." Arya's eyes seemed to flare with gray fire. "Why not? That's what he is," Tywin said. "There is no sense in lying with kinder words." Arya did not reply. She often became sullen when she did not have a retort. It reminded Tywin of Cersei when she was a child, and Cersei now. For that matter, if your brother had to choose between his sisters and his war, what would he choose? Tywin asked. "In your honest opinion." Arya did not look quite comfortable with this question. "I'm not sure." She looked up at him. "He loves us dearly, but he loves the North too. He wants to do right by the North in father's absence. But my mother is a Tully. Their words are family, duty, honor. Family first," Tywin said. "A sentimental notion. Will he follow your mother's words, or your father's?" "I don't know," Arya said. "If he refused to bend, would you kill me, my lord?" She was a sharp girl. She knew that just because she was a lady did not make her immortal. Anyone can be killed. "That depends," Tywin said at last. The flaps of the tent parted and Kevin rushed inside, panting for breath. "Tywin, we have a visitor." "Good or bad?" Tywin asked. "Good. Very good." Kevin held the flap aside, Tywin was stunned to see Jaime enter the tent. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking back his chair. Tipton was not one to let his emotions get the better of him, but here, he could not hide his shock. Jaime had the gall to smile.
I'm back.
He was, and with his arrival, the tide shifted again. Arya was not an expert at war, but she did know the significance of Jaime Lannister entering the tent that evening. If he was here, he was not her brother's hostage. Tywin had more than once implied that Jaime was the only reason he could not harm Arya or Sansa, yet here he was, free. "How did you get here?" Tywin asked. "Walked a rather long way, with a very tall woman as my guide. You should see that she is properly compensated. She did a fine job protecting me on the way." Tywin Lannister sat down in front of his father's desk. Yes, Catelyn Stark sends her regards." "Catelyn Stark let you go?" Tywin asked. "Yes. She wished for me to negotiate for the release of her daughters," Jaime said. "I don't think her son would approve. Nonetheless, if we consider this an exchange of hostages, it would be in good faith to return at least one girl." Arya looked up, hardly daring to breathe. Return one girl. Could she truly return home? The thought made her whole body feel lighter. "It would be, if we didn't still have a war to win," Tywin said. "My willingness to release her daughters depends entirely on whether or not they will accept my peace terms. Releasing you was stupid." "It's wonderful to see you too, father," Jaime said. "I'm all right, by the way. Unharmed. I'm sure you were wondering." Tywin gave Jaime a glare that would have shattered most people like glass. But Jaime was Tywin's son. He was invincible to such things. Funny, for as much as Tywin claimed to care for his son's well-being, he was awfully cold to him. Arya's father was never so cold to any of his children. "As it happens, I was wondering," Tywin said. "I've been doing my level best to win this war without provoking Robb Stark to harm you in any way. You've been an obstacle for many months now, so don't be smug with me." "You're full of warm words, as always," Jaime retorted. "Warm words don't win wars. I hear they can be nice from family. If you want warmth, you're welcome to continue south to King's Landing. I still have work to do here." For a moment, a silence fell between them. Arya realized she had been completely still for the last minute, frozen in the middle of cleaning a goblet. Jaime seemed to notice and she quickly went back to cleaning. "Your cupbearer is rather attentive to our conversations," Jaime said. "Have you considered he might be a spy?" "She is not a spy," Tywin said, seemingly glad for a change in topic. "Come here, girl." Arya swallowed hard, cautiously approaching the table. She felt the Kingslayer watching her, as if trying to place her face. "Jaime, this is Arya Stark, of Winterfell," Tywin said. "I believe you've met." Rhaen's eyebrows shot up. "Seven hells, it is. I didn't recognize her." Arya cleared her throat. "That's not surprising. We never spoke at Winterfell, my lord." "No, I think I saw you running around with a helmet on in the courtyard once," Jaime said. Arya's mouth twitched. "That does sound like me, sir." "We have something in common, you and me," Jaime said. "I was a hostage to your family, and now you're a hostage to mine." "But my mother wanted you to negotiate for my return, doesn't she?" Arya said. "Yes." Jaime glanced at Tywin. "But you see who I'm negotiating with." Tywin did not take the bait of Jaime's comment, and he did not cut their conversation short either. Arya felt bold enough to ask another question. "What else? What else did my mother say to you?" "She insulted me a great deal. But at the end of the day, she let me go because she worried for you. And your sister, of course." Jaime tilted his head to the side. "No one had heard a word about you. Some people thought you might be dead. As you can see, she's not," Tywin said. "For now, she poses as my cupbearer. An odd choice. Why not send her back to King's Landing?" "I don't trust Cersei with her," Tywin said. "Fair," Jaime said. "It's still an unusual job for a hostage. She was posing as my cupbearer when I discovered her identity, and she's good at it. I find her company more tolerable than most of my men," Tywin said. "She doesn't waste my time with incompetence." "Really?" Jaime glanced up at Arya. "You know that's the closet thing you'll get to a compliment from him. You should keep it close." "Your time as a prisoner really has not sobered you," Tywin said. "You still take nothing seriously." "If I took everything seriously, life would be much more depressing," Jaime said. "This is war, Jaime." "Better to be depressed than losing," Tywin said flatly. Jaime tilted his head to the side. What happens if we're both? I've heard Stannis Baratheon fell. That's good news. But the young wolf has been out playing you. I have a way to end this war. Multiple ways. In fact, now that you've returned, Tywin nodded at Arya. She has just become much more useful bargaining chip. Robb Stark no longer has anything he can use against me. Arya swallowed hard. It seemed she would no longer be a cupbearer soon. In fact, depending on negotiations, she may not even be alive soon. Arya dared not ask about Tywin's ways to end the war for the rest of the day. She kept her head down and her tongue silent. It wasn't that she wasn't curious. She wanted to know more than anything. But she feared for the lives of her family. And for her own as well. He noticed her silence. Tywin Lannister was an observant man, and he missed nothing. You're quiet today. I can see you turning over the future in your head. I'm not, Arya replied. I'm not thinking about anything. You're lying to me again. What did I say about lying to me? Arya looked up at him. Not to do it. Good. I'm glad your memory is still sound. Tywin indicated the chair in front of his table. Sit. Arya slowly put down the pitcher and went to sit down. Her heart hammered against her ribcage. Foolishly, she had hoped he would forget all about her if she was just silent. She hoped she might turn into a shadow. Shadows did not have to face their fate. Ask the question you've been wondering, Tywin said. Arya bit her lip. How can you end this war? You said you have more than one way. I do, Tywin said.
Is there a way that does not end with most of my family dead?
Arya asked. She felt her hands shake as she asked the question. If he answered no, there was little she could do to stop him. Tywin was something like a storm, inevitable and merciless. Tywin observed her for a long moment, letting the question hang in the silence. Then he nodded once. Yes, there is a way. Arya released a breath. Of course. I don't know if your brother will take it. He has proven very stubborn, Tywin said. Until Jaime returned, I was inclined to go with a different option. But Catelyn Stark's love of her children has bought them one last chance to accept peace. Peace? Arya asked. I'm willing to treat this Northern Rebellion the way Robert Baratheon did the Greyjoy Rebellion. Tywin said, it is much easier to keep a Stark in Winterfell than risk dividing the North so close to winter. And speaking of the Greyjoys, I would prefer the Starks deal with their attack themselves. I don't want to waste the soldiers on it, but if Robb Stark wants peace, he'll do it my way. No negotiation. And what is your way, my lord? Arya asked. Guess, Tywin said. It was another test. He did like testing her. Arya sat forward a bit in her seat. The North would remain a part of the Seven Kingdoms, loyal to the realm. Robb would be the warden of the North, on the condition that he never rise up again, or else you would replace him with someone else. If he accepted, he would be required to execute any Northern lords who did not prevent further fighting in the North, and Arya trailed off. Tywin tilted his head to the side, and Arya's fists clenched as she thought of the Greyjoy Rebellion. They had crushed their armies soundly, and her father had taken on Theon as a ward to be sure it wouldn't happen again. Arya forgot sometimes, but Theon was very much a hostage in Winterfell. You would keep a hostage, Arya said, to kill if my brother ever did rebel again. A shadow of a mirthless smile crossed Tywin's face. You are a smart girl. Tywin did not say it, but Arya knew that he meant to take her as his hostage, if negotiations went well. She would be called a ward, but she would be a captive in King's Landing. And she wasn't sure how kindly the Lannister family would treat a wolf in their halls. They hadn't treated Sansa's wolf kindly, after all, or Sansa herself. I will send out a raven tonight, Tywin said, and the young wolf and I will meet. I will bring you with me. You may be the difference between your brother choosing the right path or the wrong one. I promise you, if he rejects my offer, he and your mother will die. It won't be clean. It won't be honorable. But it will end the war, and that's all I care about right now. If he chooses the wrong path, you'll have to kill me too, Arya muttered. Because if they die, I would spend the rest of my life trying to kill you. It was a bold comment. Too bold. An icy silence hung between them. But Arya did not shrink. Not this time. It so happens that if he refuses my offer, I will kill you, girl, Tywin said. So I suppose I won't have anything to fear.
Arya shivered.
Of course that was why Tywin would bring her with him to negotiate, so that he could use her death as a threat against Robb and her mother. If your brother had to choose between his sisters and his war, what would he choose? Arya still did not know the answer to that question. She raised her chin. I'm not afraid to die. Yes, you are, Tywin said. Everyone is afraid to die. Even if you weren't, you fear the death of your family. This is not just about you, it is about them as well. Think on that before we ride tomorrow. Arya hated him in that moment. The way he saw through her, the certainty of his words. She always wanted to be a hero, in a story utterly unafraid to die a glorious death in battle. Yet those were only stories. The heroes probably cried out in terror at the moment of their demise. And even her father had looked afraid before the end. Through letters, Tywin Lannister and Robb Stark agreed on terms of meeting. They agreed on how many men they would bring. They agreed on the place. Tywin sent spies to be sure he would not be tricked by the boy. Robb was far more willing to use tricks than his father in the field of battle. Tywin respected that to a point, but he would not fall for any more of his games. In this case, Robb Stark kept his word. From the hill, Tywin could see the few Stark tents pitched. It seemed to be the agreed-upon amount. Tywin had brought Jaime with him, mostly because he fully expected the Stark boy to lie and claim he had his son hostage still. Beyond that, he brought the best soldiers in his guard, and the girl, she sat on a horse, between him and Jaime. Her face was vacant and calm, as if she was not worried at all about the discussion to come. But Tywin could see the pale white of her knuckles as she gripped her saddle. She was afraid, for her family and for herself. Targaryen would not enjoy having to kill the girl, if it came to that. He would do it himself, and he would make it clean and quick. But it would be a shame to lose her, as his cupbearer. Hopefully the threat of losing a daughter would compel Catelyn Stark to see his side. In his mind he already knew how some of this negotiation would go. They would call him dishonorable, as most Starks did. As if honor had any place at all in war. But in the end, if they were smart they would accept his terms. Their lives, the survival of the Stark family, depended on this night. It was the first time Tywin had actually seen Robb Stark, face to face. He looked more like his mother than his father, with hints of Tully red in his brown hair. He had the Stark eyes though, the cold gray of the north. Tywin recognized those same eyes in Arya Stark. His expression was fierce when Tywin entered, but he remembered his courtesies. This was a truce, and there would be no blood shed in this tent. It would be a tremendous dishonor, if there was, and no Stark would break such a vow. Tywin would, if it suited him. So would the phrase in the Boltons. This meeting would determine if he needed their services. I was surprised to receive your letter, Robb Stark said. You know my terms. Unless you wish to accept them, there will not be peace. He took a hard stance to begin. It was smart and would intimidate most men. But Tywin Lannister was not most men. I've read your terms. At one point, perhaps, you had the leverage to bargain for them. Now you do not. We've won many victories against your armies, Robb said. A few losses, but nothing compared to yours. Why shouldn't we keep fighting and winning? I suppose it depends on how much value you put on your sisters' lives, Tywin said. You may have my sisters, but we have your son, Robb muttered, so careful about making threats. There was the lie Tywin was waiting for. He spoke with such confidence that Tywin might have believed him if he did not know better. Really? And where is it you are keeping my son? I wouldn't tell you that, Lansar, Robb said. That's all right. You don't have to. Tywin said, because you don't have my son. He glanced over his shoulder and Jaime entered the tent, removing his helm. He looked more the part of Lantu now that he had cut his hair and shaved his beard. He was no longer ragged from his time as a prisoner, and he looked more than a little bit smug as he stared down the king in the north. Hello again, Lord Stark. Robb glared at him and Catelyn Stark gripped the edge of the table. Did your son also mention that I was the one who sent him? She asked. Or did he break that vow? Always assuming the worst about me, aren't you? Jaime asked. Yes. As it happens, I did tell my father that you sent me, and what you wanted in return. And Lady Stark looked to Tywin. She wanted her daughters very much. Her love of them had driven her to a tremendously stupid decision that worked very much in Tywin's favor. And it is only because you returned my son that I offered this meeting, Tywin said. To discuss the future of this war and your family in Westeros. Don't pretend you hold the cards here, Lannister, Robb said. We still have more victories. Victories on the battlefield are not the only way to win wars, Tywin said. I assure you that I know how to win wars without them. You've proven a capable commander, willing to take calculated risks. I respect your efforts on the battlefield, but I will not entertain them anymore. If you can win the war, then why offer peace at all? Robb asked. I know your history, Lord Tywin. You've broken many people who defied you and your family, and you did so without mercy. If you wish to make peace with me, there must be a reason. Of course there is, Tywin said. Keeping a Stark in Winterfell is always preferable. If I place anyone else at that seat, it will split the North. I'll have to handle the Greyjoy rebellion on my own as well. I'll do it, but I prefer not to waste more Lannister lives on those tiresome fools. According to your own words, winter is coming, and I don't intend to fight the North in the cold. Then perhaps you should give us our independence, Robb said. And you won't have to do so.
How well do you think you'd do in independence?
Tywin said, the North has grown dependent on resources from the South during winter over the many years belonging to the realm. Since you have been in war, you have not been able to gather as many crops before they turn. Without help from the crown, your people will starve. How will independence taste to them then? I don't claim it wouldn't be hard, Robb said. But Northmen are hard people, used to dealing with cold. We will make do. Perhaps you will, and when the summer comes again, my armies will be stronger, Tywin said. This is assuming I let you live until the summer, which I would not. I cannot bend the knee to the boy who murdered my father. It is out of the question. Robb said, then let me give you a reason to bring it back into the question. Tywin stood, snapping his fingers at Jaime, who opened the tent flap again. Arya Stark stepped into the room. The effect was immediate. Catelyn stood abruptly, and Robb Stark's mask dropped. He had hit a nerve with both of them, and thus it revealed their weakness. Now, it was time to see how useful a pawn Arya Stark could be. It had been nearly a year since Arya had seen her mother, and she wanted nothing more than to run to her. The moment her mother stood, she stepped forward on instinct. But Tywin grasped the scruff of her tunic and forced her to his side. His hand was like a vice, and she could not hope to squirm away. I will not be afraid, she told herself. I will be strong. Yet her hands shook. Her mother's voice cracked, and tears rose to her blue eyes. But those tears burned like fire when she looked up at Tywin. If you have harmed her, calm yourself, Lady Stark. I haven't harmed her, Tywin said. You can ask her yourself, if you wish. Robb clenched the edge of the table hard, looking like he wanted to overturn it. But he stayed seated. Arya, have you been mistreated at all? No, Arya replied. I'm all right. Promise. There, you see, Tywin said. You can't say the same of some of the Lannister hostages you took. Your men killed them, and I punished them for it, as you might have heard Robb said. I know, which is why I did not punish the girl in kind. Tywin said, now let us be clear. I hold every card. I have 2 Stark daughters, one in King's Landing, and one here. I have a larger army, now that we have allied with the Tyrells. I have more resources for when the winter comes. This is my last offer. Arya felt his grip tighten on her tunic. If you do not accept my terms of peace, I will keep Sansa Stark as a hostage. I will kill this one, and I will destroy your house. Arya's mother looked as if she might leap across the table and claw Tywin's eyes out. My daughters are innocent of any wrong. You will not. Wars are full of innocent casualties. If ending the war means less Lannister lives lost, I will gladly kill an innocent, Tywin said flatly. He was calm as ever, but inevitable as a storm. There was no bluff in his voice. He would kill Arya, whether he enjoyed her company or not. He would slit her throat if her brother rejected his terms. Robb. Arya looked up at her brother. Robb used to help her practice with the bow and arrow when Septa Mordaunt wasn't looking. He always complimented her needlework, even when it was awful. When she was little, he used to take her for rides on his horse, because she loved riding. Now she was being used against him, and she hated it. She hated Tywin Lannister for making her his pawn. She could see the pain in Robb's eyes as he mulled over the awful decision, but if he did not take it, it wouldn't just be Arya's life. He would die too. Her mother would die too. She had no doubt that Tywin Lannister had a way to destroy them. What are your terms, Robb finally said. Exactly. You will end this rebellion and renew your pledge to Joffrey as Warden of the North. Tywin said, you will take your soldiers and destroy the Greyjoy rebellion. If you accept the terms, I will return Sansa Stark home. And Arya? Robb asked. I will take Arya as a ward to my house, to ensure your loyalty, Tywin said. The words fell on Arya like a death sentence of sorts. She had known all along that this was his plan, but the notion frightened her nonetheless. She will be treated well enough, but if I hear any more talk of northern independence, she will suffer for it. Her mother let out a shuddering breath. She must have known that a hostage would be part of the terms. Nonetheless, it seemed to deflate her. How do I know that Joffrey will not kill me like my father if I go to King's Landing? Robb said. He will not, Tywin said. I will be present this time. My daughter could not handle him, but I can. If you bend the knee, you will return to the north unharmed. King Aerys said the same thing of my grandfather and uncle, Robb said. I'm not King Aerys, Tywin said. No, but you're a Lannister. I don't trust you either, Robb said. He shot an icy glare at Shaymay. You lie and plot. You break oaths. What an awful oath to break, wasn't it? Shaymay muttered. He had been largely silent during this debate, letting his father handle the negotiation. He was the eldest son, but he did not quite command Tywin's raw power. A shame I killed such a kind man. King Aerys, the kindly king. You are still without honor, Robb retorted. Honor? Tywin laughed once. It was an utterly joyless sound. Honor is idealistic nonsense, boy. A trick that men use to justify their actions. A trick they use to justify going to war. But the world does not operate by rules of honor. It never has. The reason why the Lannisters have endured for so long is because we recognize that. I suggest you do the same. Robb's jaw tightened. He looked from their mother to Arya to Tywin. She could see his honor and his devotion to family tearing at the corners of his mind, threatening to pull him apart. Robb, Arya murmured to get his attention. Robb looked down at her. Father died for honor too. You need to live. The North needs you. Robb closed his eyes, resting his forehead against his closed fists. Tywin did not say a word. He did not need to. He truly had all of the cards in his hand, ready to play no matter the response. Robb exhaled. I would like to request some time to think on your proposal. You have until dawn, Tywin said. No longer. May I speak with my sister alone? Robb asked. No, Tywin said. You may speak with her after you have given me your answer. For now, I'll keep her with me. Arya's mother gritted her teeth together. You truly are a monstrous sort of man, Lord Tywin. Tywin looked back to her, unmoved. Yes, that is why I'm still alive. He steered Arya toward the tent exit. I'll return at dawn. Catelyn Stark had always known Tywin Lannister to be a cruel man. But to dangle her daughter in front of her only to tear her away. It made her furious beyond belief. It was agony to watch Arya from across the table. Her little girl, trapped in a Lannister's grip, how frightened she must be. Tywin Lannister would kill her without hesitation if it suited him, which was why Catelyn could not believe Robb was even considering such an option. We cannot leave Sansa and Arya to his mercy, Catelyn said. He will kill Arya, and there is nothing we can do. And whose fault is that? Robb snapped. If we had Jaime Lannister still, it would all be a bluff. But we don't. I have nothing to use against him. I don't even have those Lannister boys. Not that he would trade for them. I was thinking of the girls, Catelyn murmured. You were thinking too hard of them. We could have gotten them back if we just kept winning. Robb said. At best, we will get Sansa back. But no matter what we choose, Arya suffers. She either dies or she becomes a damned hostage. I know that, Robb, Catelyn said. I heard his terms. You don't think I know what I've done? She shook her head. I was desperate. Bran and Rickon held hostage by Theon and Sansa and Arya with the Lannisters. I needed to try. It didn't do much good, did it? Robb asked. It did something, Catelyn said. Tywin Lannister offered us peace. He would not have done so if I hadn't given him Shaymay, and if he spoke truly, he had some dark plot to kill you and break the Northern Army. I don't doubt him. He is not a man to bluff. So you think I should be grateful that he offered peace? Robb asked. Yes, it is something he rarely does, Catelyn said. It's only your name that bought you this talk. He recognizes that it is easier to keep a Stark in Winterfell, especially with winter on its way. And keep a Stark in his halls to kill if we step out of line, Robb said. What happens if this is a trap? Perhaps it is, Catelyn said. Perhaps it's not. Are you willing to risk your sister's life for it? Robb looked down at his feet. The men of the North put their faith in me, their trust in me, and if they are truly loyal, they will follow you and retreat. Catelyn said, "Tell them that you must crush the Greyjoys and save Bran and Rickon. Tell them it is more important to protect home. Tell them that rebellion is unwise when winter is coming and crops must be gathered." She placed a hand on his cheek. "Look to the future. Your father is dead. I do not want to see any of my children join him." Robb looked down at her with the eyes of a boy who had recently realized that his mother was not perfect, nor always right. He had lost his faith in her and she knew she would not get that back. He truly had grown up. It was a painful thing for Catelyn to see. Yet she was so proud of how far he had come. "You promised me that we would kill them all one day," he said at last. "One day, we will," Catelyn vowed. "But there is wisdom in patience, Robb, and revenge will never be worth more than family. You know your father would say the same." "Father is not here, because of Joffrey," Robb said. "What would he say if I bent the knee to him? What would he say if you allowed your sister to die?" Catelyn asked. Robb fell silent. To that, he did not seem to have an answer. The camp was quiet that night, intense beyond belief. Only Jaime's father seemed calm as he sat at his desk, writing letters. It seemed Tywin often wrote letters these days, often with the purpose of starting and ending wars. He had such a reach over the kingdom that a single raven from him could alter the course of the country. Jaime could never imagine having that sort of power. His father wanted him to become the man he was born to be. But if that meant becoming like Tywin, he wasn't sure he could manage it. His father had 10 times his ambition and 10 times his ruthlessness. Jaime had no desire for power or Casterly Rock. But even though he had donned a white cloak, his father still considered him his heir. "You're calm tonight," Jaime said. "You don't seem worried about their decision." "It doesn't matter either way," Tywin said. "I will be able to end this war whether they accept my terms or not. One road is slightly cleaner, but I have a plan for both scenarios." "Naturally," Jaime said. "But I'm sure you have a preference." Tywin looked up at him. "Why would I have a preference?" His father's expression was stony and unreadable. To everyone except perhaps his children. Jaime had studied his father for a long time, and he knew the nearly imperceptible difference in his moods. Jaime shrugged. "Why take Arya as a ward rather than Sansa?" "What do you mean?" Tywin asked. "If Robb Stark accepts peace, why take Arya as a ward? Sansa would technically be more valuable. She's the eldest Stark daughter, and she's already in King's Landing. From what I've seen, she seems much more docile than her younger sister. So why not keep her? I offered Sansa back to the Starks because she is more valuable. It makes them more likely to accept the offer," Tywin said. "So you do have a preference," Jaime said. Tywin set down his pen, leaning back in his chair. "What is the purpose of these questions, Jaime? Maybe I'm just trying to figure out how your mind works. You've always encouraged me to follow in your footsteps." Jaime said. "Don't play games with me," Tywin said. "Say what you mean or leave me be." Jaime held his gaze. "You like that girl, Arya Stark. You don't want to kill her." He expected his father to deny it. But then Tywin was always a brutally honest sort of person, even with himself. "No, I don't want to kill her," he said. "But I will. I will do what needs to be done, whatever the Starks decide. What I think of the girl doesn't matter." Jaime exhaled. His father really never let weakness show. He wondered if Lord Tywin Lannister still experienced emotion like everyone else, or if his heart had turned into an empty husk from years without use. "If you truly want to know how my mind works, then know this," Tywin said. "It's never personal feelings or glory or goals that matter. It's about the family. It's about the Lannister name. If you want to truly serve the family, you must be willing to put aside every one of your selfish emotions." Jaime shook his head, a mirthless smile on his face. "That's a nice idea, father. You should tell that to Tyrion." Tywin's gaze hardened, and in an instant, Jaime knew he had overstepped. "Get out. Now." Jaime did not protest. He wanted to escape the conversation anyway. It was true, his father wanted nothing more than to serve the family. Personal emotions didn't matter, he said. Personal wishes and grudges should be cast away, but those words didn't seem to matter when it came to his blind hatred of Tyrion. Tyrion would always be the breaking point for Lord Tywin Lannister's rationality. At least Tywin had a breaking point. That meant he was as human as everyone else. Arya felt smaller than usual, sitting on the floor of her small tent. It was late, but she knew she would not sleep. She would spend the whole night waiting for the dawn, waiting for her brother's decision. She wondered, not for the first time, what it would be like to die. How much would it hurt and where would she go afterwards? Would the god of death be a man or a shadow? There is only one thing we say to the god of death. Not today. Not today, she muttered, tucking her knees into her chest. Not today. The tent flap brushed back and she tensed, wondering if Tywin had come for her again. Perhaps Robb had made his decision. Perhaps this was her last night. Instead, a Jaime Lannister entered the tent. She started to rise, but he held out a hand. Don't get up. Arya swallowed hard, looking away. Does your father need something, sir? No, Jaime said. Arya looked up at him suspiciously. Do you? Not particularly, Jaime said. But I find myself unable to sleep tonight. I guessed you might be awake as well. Of course I'm awake, Arya said indignantly. Why would I sleep if I could die tomorrow? Hence my guess, Jaime said. You shouldn't worry too much, my lady. I doubt your brother will sacrifice you for his war. He seems like a good lad. Robb is worth 10 of any of you, Arya said firmly. Fear of death made her bolder. Why should she fear speaking her mind when her throat could be cut tomorrow? Depends on what you count as worth. But yes, probably. Jaime tilted his head to the side. Do you speak so bluntly with my father? Yes, when I'm feeling brave, Arya said. Jaime laughed once, sitting down on the stool in front of her. I would call that brave or stupid. Most people wouldn't dare say a single word against him. It's a wonder he likes you so much. Arya's brow furrowed. He doesn't like me. I'm his hostage. His hostage whom he keeps as a cupbearer, Jaime said. If he didn't like you, he would have sent you off to King's Landing long ago. My father doesn't keep company with people he doesn't like. Arya did not reply. I know it's hard to tell, Jaime said. I'm not sure he remembers how to smile. And laughing. That's even rarer. It always sounds so forced. He leaned forward. But I'm his son, so I can tell. He only lets you get away with that mouth of yours. Because he likes you. I don't like him, Arya muttered. Of course you don't, Jaime said. Most people don't like my father. Half the time his children don't even like him. But it will be in your favor if you're to become a Lannister ward. A Lannister ward. The very words made Arya shiver. She only wanted to go home back to Winterfell. Instead, she would return to King's Landing, to the place where her father lost his head. At least Sansa will get to leave, Arya murmured. She must hate it there. I always felt awful for leaving her behind. Your sister seems to be a more delicate person than you, Jaime said. And King's Landing is not gentle with delicate people. You'll fare better than her. I'm sure. Will I? I'm a Stark, Arya murmured. Starks historically did not do well in King's Landing. Her grandfather, uncle, father, they had all died there. She always looked the most like her father of all of his children. She wouldn't last there. Yes, but you're smart, Jaime said. My father would not have taken you as a cupbearer if you weren't. I'm sure you'll find a way. Arya rested her chin on her knees. Why did you come here, Septa? To try to make me feel better. No, Jaime said. Curiosity, I suppose. I barely noticed you when I last went to Winterfell. But if you return to King's Landing, we are going to be seeing a lot more of each other. Arya nodded once. It was interesting. She used to quite look up to Jaime Lannister when she first read about him. She looked up to all the great knights of Westeros. Barristan Selmy, the Sword of the Morning. Jaime Lannister was supposed to be nearly as skilled as them. But her father had nothing but contempt for the Kingslayer. He said he was a man without honor for killing King Aerys. Her father was usually right about people. Whether he was without honor or not, he did not seem cruel. At least, not in this moment. The tent flap opened again, and a messenger slipped his head inside. Sorry, NB. Your father sent me to bring the girl. For what? Jaime asked. Robb Stark has made his decision. Arya swallowed hard. It was not yet dawn, but it was time to face her fate, all the same. Arya hardly dared to breathe as she met Tywin at the top of the hill. Only meters away sat the tent where her fate would be decided. In less than an hour, she would either be dead or given away as a hostage to the Lannister families. There were no good options for her. She knew it. Tywin knew it. He studied her as she came to a stop in front of him, as if searching for her fear. She raised her chin and clenched her jaw in what she hoped looked like defiance. The corners of his mouth barely twitched. It was the closest he ever got to a smile. Come on, girl! Let's hear your brother's choice. The tension in the tent was almost suffocating. Arya's mother and brothers stood on one side of the table, tense and stern. Tywin stood on the other, his grip tight on the back of her collar. In the initial silence, Arya could not read Robb's decision. She did not know what he had chosen. She could almost hear her heart slamming against her chest, trying to escape. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. Not today. Robb exhaled at last and looked up at the head of house. Lannister, I accept your terms, Lord Tywin, all of them. Arya let out a shuddering breath. All at once, her future became clear. Perhaps not a good future, but it was better than a knife and the shadow of death. Tywin's grip loosened just slightly on her collar. It seemed even he had relaxed just a bit at the words. You're a smart man, Robb Stark. It will serve you well as Warden of the North. We'll discuss the terms again, Robb muttered. His anger was clear, but also his defeat. First, let me speak with my sister alone. For a moment, Tywin did not answer. Then he released Arya. Very well, I will be outside. There was a warning in his voice, a warning not to try any tricks. Robb seemed to hear it, and he nodded. Then Tywin left the tent. Arya released a breath and ran for her mother. She caught her up in her arms. Hold tightly. Oh, Arya, she murmured. Sweet girl. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Arya fought tears as she clung onto her mother. It had been far too long. No, I'm sorry. He used me against you. If I hadn't gotten caught, don't apologize for that, Arya. Catelyn pulled back, brushing her hair from her face. It wasn't your fault. No, it wasn't, Robb agreed. I blame Lord Tywin for this, not you. It was though, Arya said, I escaped the Red Keep. Mother, I was disguised as a boy and was well away from them when my group was caught and sent to Harrenhal.
You had escaped? Catelyn looked to Robb. That must be why we never heard anything about her from the keep.
How did Lord Tywin discover you? Robb asked. Lord Tywin took me as a cupbearer, Arya said. He didn't know who I was, just that I was a girl disguised as a boy. I think he could tell I was highborn, but he didn't know. She swallowed hard. Until Lord Baelish arrived. He told Tywin who I was. Her mother's face twisted with rage. Damn him to all the seven hells. He claimed to be on our side, and he lied. Lord Baelish is on the side of the highest bidder. Nothing more, Robb said. We can blame him for your discovery, Arya. Truly, it wasn't your fault. Arya looked up at Robb. You're not angry with me, then? Robb shook his head. No. Gods no. Arya. Arya rushed to hug him, and he caught her up in his arms, holding her close. She had missed her older brothers, Robb and Jon, both. The only thing that she liked about being small was that they could easily pick her up. She used to love feeling weightless. I'm sorry we can't take you home with us, Robb murmured. Your place is at Winterfell. I'm sorry. I'm alive. Don't apologize, Arya said. I'll be all right. I can be smart and quick. You already are. Robb sat her down on her feet. But I hate to leave you in Tywin Lannister's hands. I can survive him. I've survived him for 2 months now, Arya said. It's Joffrey I'm worried about. If that boy harms you, I will raise my armies again the next day, Robb said. I promise that. Don't, Arya said. Don't let anyone else in our family get killed. Not for me. Besides, you need to save Bran and Rickon first. I'll be all right. Oh, Arya, her mother murmured. The heartbreak in her voice weighed heavy on Arya's shoulders. You've always been so fearless. You left the worrying to everyone else. Arya forced a smile. She did not say how afraid she truly was. She did not want to worry her mother anymore. This is not goodbye, Robb said. You'll return to Winterfell someday. I swear it. Arya nodded once. Yes, I'll see you again. It was a promise that neither of them could keep. Robb would not have the authority to bring Arya home, and she would not have the authority to leave. Her fate was entirely in the hands of Tywin Lannister. Now, Tywin Lannister and Robb Stark discussed the terms again. It was a short meeting, because Robb knew he had little room for debate. The only real question was the timeline of the terms. Robb Stark swore loyalty to the crown in that tent, but it would be some time before he made it to King's Landing to bend the knee. First, he would secure the North by crushing the Greyjoy rebellion. Once the Greyjoys were brought to heel, Tywin could install someone there without a tendency for stupid uprisings. He would kill all the Greyjoys. They had already had one chance for peace, and they had ignored it. Once the final rebellion was crushed, the War of Five Kings would be at its end. Stanton's on the run, and Renly and Balon in the grave. Robb Stark would then ride to King's Landing to bend the knee to Joffrey. Officially. Meanwhile, the Lannister armies would return home. Tywin would take Arya Stark with him, and send Sansa Stark back to the north. Robb would send trusted men to King's Landing to escort her. It had all worked out rather well, which was a welcome change from the past few months, and it cemented Tywin's legacy. He had ended many wars and rebellions in his lifetime. He crushed the Rhames and the Greyjoys. He helped Robert's rebellion to success and gave him that bloody Iron Throne. And now he ended the War of Five Kings. History would remember the Lannister name as one of strength. The lords of the present would not feel the same. The Starks, the Greyjoys, the remaining rebel Baratheons, they would all hate him and curse his name. He was used to such things. What truly mattered was the bigger picture. Even if every soul on earth hated him, including his family and his children, it was the future that mattered. Arya Stark hated him too. He supposed she always had. He could see rebellion in her eyes when she stepped from her brother's tent. She looked up at him with a challenge. "I'm your ward now, and you will have to deal with me," she seemed to say. "I am still a wolf." She was a wolf. In some ways, Jaime was right. Sansa would be an easier girl to handle as a ward. She would do as asked, with little resistance. But a ward was associated with the family name, and Tywin had no interest in a docile girl. If he was going to take a ward, he preferred one with a bite. Arya had traveled this road before. The King's Road had been her first major journey from Winterfell. It had also been the first place where she saw the cruelty of House Lannister. Joffrey and Cersei had proved themselves monstrous that day, and Lady and Mycah suffered for it. That was the beginning of the end. They should have turned and left for home at once after that night, but they didn't, and her father was dead because of it. As they drew nearer to King's Landing, they naturally passed through the same villages, including the site of that awful incident. Arya still remembered meeting Miquar outside of the butcher shop and asking him to spar with her. It felt like an innocent request, and they had a grand time fighting by the river. But then Joffrey and the Hound, Arya's jaw clenched as she caught sight of the butcher shop. It was because of her that a man lost his son. "You look as if you're plotting to kill, Lady Arya," Tywin observed. Arya sighed. Was there ever a moment when he didn't notice a shift in her expressions? Perhaps she was too easy to read. "I'm not plotting to kill, just thinking about it," she said, urging her horse forward. She did not want to look upon the village anymore. "Explain how plotting and thinking are different." "Plotting involves a plan. Thinking is less solid." "Insightful of you," Tywin said dryly. "And what is you thinking of killing?" Arya stared down at the reins, grasped tight in her hands. Though she was a captive, her wrists were not bound. She could almost imagine she was free. "Did you ever hear the story of what happened between Joffrey and me on the King's Road?" "I heard the story from Cersei." "Yes." She was furious about it. Tywin said, "You heard the wrong version then," Arya said. "Cersei is a liar. It didn't happen at all how she said it. You don't even know what she told me." "I know it was a lie. I suppose you better give me your version then," Tywin said, "or else I'll have to accept hers as fact." He was baiting her. It was hard to tell sometimes, with the head of Lannister House, because his very grim expressions, but Arya was beginning to learn the slight differences in the cadence of his voice. She had been near him for nearly 3 months now, after all. "I was sparring with a boy named Mycah," Arya said. "My brother Jon had just given me a sword, and I wanted to get good enough so that I could use it. No one from our group would ever practice with me, so I found him. While we were practicing, Sansa and Joffrey walked by. Joffrey wanted to fight Mycah next. Her grip tightened on the reins. Only he had a real sword. Mycah didn't want to fight him. Of course he didn't. Joffrey was a prince with a real blade, and he only had a stick. Joffrey started cutting open his cheek, so I hit him with my stick as hard as I could. You were less worried about fighting a prince, it seems." Tywin observed. "It wasn't a smart decision. I didn't have a real sword either." Arya admitted. "He nearly killed me. I only avoided his blade because I was quick. But when I got in trouble, Nymeria came to help me." "Your wolf?" "Yes." She bit his wrist until he dropped his sword. Then I threw it in the river and we ran. Arya shook her head. "I didn't make it far. Lannister soldiers found me quickly. But Nymeria escaped at least. Maybe she's still alive somewhere. I don't know. Tyrone said. Cersei insisted that you maliciously set your wolf on Joffrey. She's a liar. Nomeria was only defending me.
Arya said. Joffrey and Cersei both lied to everyone. Worse than that, they brought Sansa out and made her lie too. She was there the whole time, but she pretended she didn't see what happened. She saw, I know she did. So Joffrey told one story, you told another, and your sister refused to confirm either, Tywin said. And which opinion did the king listen to? He wanted to leave the whole incident behind, Arya recalled. But Cersei wanted some sort of punishment for my wolf. Only my wolf was gone. So instead, Arya swallowed, they killed Sansa's wolf for no good reason. Lady wasn't even there, she'd never heard anything in her whole life. But Cersei wanted her dead. Arya felt a fresh wave of hatred rising up inside of her. And Micah, they killed Micah too. He hadn't fought Joffrey at all. Cersei wanted something or someone to blame. Tywin said. And she couldn't very well kill you, so the wolf and the boy would have to do. It wasn't fair, Arya said. Of course not. And when is the last time you experienced the world as fair? Tywin asked. Arya fell silent. He was right, of course. The world was cruel, and often did not make sense. If fairness and justice reigned, her father would be alive in the Lancers in the dirt. I am more inclined to believe your story. Cersei told a fantastic lie in her letter, Tywin said. She's been telling fantastic lies since she was a child. Whenever she did something wrong, she always had someone else to blame for it. A maid, a stable boy, her brothers. She always came prepared with a story. She could get away with it with the Septas and the guards, and most of her family. But not with me. Arya studied him. But she kept lying to you? Even if it didn't work? No, she did everything possible to make sure the issue never came to my attention, Tywin said. I was hand of the king at the time. I was trying to run a country. It was easy enough for her to convince others that I did not need to become involved. Every successful lie she told, the more overconfident she grew. He shrugged. Now, she's a transparent liar, but she's powerful enough that no one can question it. You can, Arya pointed out. I do. When she attempts to lie to me, Tywin said, her dishonesty with others does not worry me. Why not? A lie is a lie, Arya said. Yes, and a lie can sometimes protect the family or serve the family's interests. Tywin said, I'm sure your father told a lie or kept a secret for the good of his family. Arya shook her head. No, never. A rare man then. Most men are not so honest. Tywin looked down at her. But remember, girl, that honesty of his is one of the traits that cost him his life. Don't make the same mistakes as him. Arya's jaw clenched, and she looked away. Yes, her father was honest in a world of liars. Arya was not as good of a person as him, though. She had lied plenty of times and disobeyed and cheated. Maybe the worst parts of herself would help her survive in King's Landing. They arrived in King's Landing through the God's Gate, a few days later. Arya had last passed beneath that gate a year ago, back when she still believed in the immortality of people she loved. How different she had been then. How naive. Now the air made her sick with the awful memories of the past, and she felt bile in the back of her throat when she saw the Septet of Baelor in the distance. Sir Lynn, bring me his head. Approaching the Red Keep, she could almost smell the blood. All of the Stark household had been killed here. Septa Norden, who always chided Arya for her needlework, the guards who used to escort her places, all of her father's most trusted soldiers, Septa Noria, her dancing master, everyone associated with the name Stark had been slayed in the castle, except for Arya and Sansa. When they stopped at the stables, Arya saw a familiar face flanked by Lannister guards. She was preparing for the long journey home, and every bit of her face looked relieved. It had been so long since Arya had seen her sister that she almost stopped breathing. Sansa looked up and saw her. Arya, she murmured. No one could stop Arya from vaulting off of her horse and rushing toward her sister. She hugged her as tightly as she could. The last time they saw each other, they had been fighting about something stupid. Arya would have deeply regretted it if they had never seen each other again. Sansa wrapped her arms around her, holding her close. Oh, Arya, it's good to see you. I thought you might be dead. I'm not, Arya pulled back at her. I'm all right. Between the two of us, you were in more danger. Sansa gave her a small smile. Her smiles were sadder now,
with none of their old optimistic brightness. In fact, Sansa's skin looked much paler, and her body more deflated. She used to shine in the capital. Time and tragedy had sapped her strength. "It's all right. You get to go home now," Arya murmured. "I've seen Mother. She misses you. She'll be so glad to be with you again." "I wish I could take you with me," Sansa murmured. "I wish we could both go home." Arya's chest ached. Yes, she wished that too. It would be nice to have all of the family together again. "I'll be all right." "You will." Sansa pulled her into another hug, but this time she whispered in her ear. "Be careful, Arya. Joffrey is worse than he ever was. I know you're fierce, but you must be careful and play their game. Otherwise you'll suffer." Arya swallowed hard. She could hardly imagine Joffrey worse. But she believed Sansa. Play their game? Keep your head down. Don't act rashly. Be a shadow. Sansa pulled back. "Promise me." "I promise," Arya murmured. "Good." Sansa squeezed her shoulders. "Lady Sansa," one of the guards stepped up beside her. It took Arya a moment to see that it was not a man but a giant of a woman. Her eyes widened. "We're ready to leave." "Of course," Sansa murmured. "Oh. Lady Brienne, this is my sister Arya."
"I'm not a lady," Brienne murmured.
She gave Arya a bow. "I'm pleased to meet you, Lady Arya." "Mother sent her ahead to help guide me north," Sansa said. "She doesn't trust the Lannister guards." "She shouldn't." Arya looked up at Brienne. I've never seen a lady knight. I've only read about them." Brienne seemed taken aback by the admiration in her voice. "Do you like reading about knights, Lady Arya? Here he is always talking about knights. She would be one if she had the chance." Sansa said, "Perhaps one day you'll have that chance." Brienne smiled a bit. "I apologize that we cannot take you with us, Lady Arya." Arya swallowed hard. Yes, she would like very much to go with them. "Protect Sansa. I'll be fine here." Sansa gave her a sad smile. "Goodbye, we'll see each other again." Then she turned away from Arya, stepping into the cart. Arya watched her sister leave, fighting the urge to jump in the back with her. She would not get far. She was a prisoner of this place now. She could only hope to follow in her sister's footsteps one day and make the long journey home. "It's ridiculous," Cersei said. "It's completely ridiculous." "So you've said," Tywin said, without looking up from his letters. "3 times now. Making peace with Robb Stark is borderline madness," Cersei said. "He took up arms against the throne, against your grandson, and you offered him a deal. You should have destroyed every single one of the Starks, like you did the Reynes, starting with that insufferable girl." Tywin exhaled. Cersei had been raving about this for what seemed like hours now. Recent events had made her more wild and paranoid than ever. He set down his quill. "The North would have stopped their rebellion long ago if you had managed to control your son. You made everything much more difficult when you stood by and let Ned Stark die." "I didn't expect him to." "No, you didn't. But you should have." Tywin said, "You love your children, but you are blind to their faults. You should have seen Joffrey's untamed cruelty a long time ago and learned how to manage it when he was still young. Now it's too late. He will no longer listen to you. The blame for that rests on your shoulders." Cersei fell into a sullen silence, just like she always did when she did not have a retort. The years had hardened her, but some things had stayed the same. "Would you like me to explain why I made peace with the North?" Tywin asked. "Or would you like to continue to make wild accusations?" Cersei glared at him. "Explain then." "The Starks are not the Reynes," Tywin said. "The Reynes owed loyalty to House Lannister, but they were not necessary for the survival of the Westerlands. Furthermore, your grandfather had let the Lannister name sit so long in the mud that an extreme response was required to change the views of the other houses. I crushed them soundly because I did not need them, and they made an example to the rest of the world. The point is not to destroy every enemy, because every enemy is not the same. Sometimes we go to war. Sometimes we make peace. Sometimes we form marriage alliances or take hostages. And you made peace with the Starks," Cersei said. "Why is that necessary?" "You really shouldn't need to ask me that question," Tywin said. "They're one of the oldest families in Westeros for a reason. There has always been a Stark in Winterfell, and changing that would destabilize the North. I preferred not to throw one realm into chaos with winter on the way. Furthermore, Robb Stark didn't rise in rebellion because he did not respect the Lannister name or the throne. He rose in rebellion to defend his father. Enemy or not, he would have been weak and disloyal if he did not come to Eddard Stark's defense. Do you respect him now? Cersei sneered. A boy of 17 with a great many victories under his belt. Yes, Tywin said. He's smart and willing to make sacrifices. He will make a strong leader in the north. We need strong leadership. Cersei looked away, the look of a sullen child crossing her face. You told me once that everyone who isn't us is an enemy. I told you that everyone who isn't us could become an enemy. There is a difference, Tywin said, and it is possible to respect one's enemies. Make peace with them. Keep them close. If you look down on every one of your enemies, you begin to underestimate them, and they have the opportunity to rise up and destroy you. That's what happened to the Targaryens. He picked up his quill to write, I do not intend to follow them. Our enemies can't harm us if they are all dead, Cersei said quietly. That's a child's way to deal with a problem. You can't kill everyone in the world. Then the world would not turn properly anymore. Tywin went back to writing. You will make peace with Arya Stark. Cersei's shoulders rose like the hackles of an enraged lioness. I will not. You will, Tywin said. A child's squabble between her and Joffrey is not a reason for you to bear a grudge. And if Joffrey senses your hatred, he may see that as an excuse to kill her just as he killed Ned Stark. I need her alive and unharmed, so you will do your part to see that happens. She's as wild as an actual wolf. You should have sent her back to the north and kept Sansa here. Cersei said, but I didn't, and my decision is not negotiable. Tywin looked up at her again. Make peace with the girl. Make sure Joffrey understands her value. Then you are both free to ignore her completely. Cersei gritted her teeth together and stood. As you say, father. Then she swept from the room. She's going to cause trouble, Tywin thought. As soon as she left, he set his quill down again, rubbing a hand over his face. If anyone was wild now, it was his daughter. She barely made an attempt to conceal her true feelings anymore. He was more concerned about controlling her than Arya Stark. Arya's room was smaller than most in King's Landing, but larger than her chambers at Winterfell. King's Landing had far more room to spare, it seemed, even for hostages. Arya hated the room. She hated the smell of this place. It was all perfumes, just barely covering the stench of death and deceit. She hated the silk of the sheets too. Silk was such a useless sort of fabric. There was no security in it. In the north, nothing was made of silk. Sansa used to lament that fact. But Arya loved it. She always preferred leather and fur and wool. She wondered if they would dress her in King's Landing garb as well. She would not like that at all. Arya paced around her room, looking for something she could use as a weapon. A knife, perhaps? She did not know what she would do with a weapon, but it would be good to have just in case. She could not find anything sharp, however, only a hairbrush on the dresser, and she wasn't sure it was heavy enough to beat someone with. Arya's shoulders sagged, and she looked up at her reflection in the mirror. She was annoyed that she did not look stronger, more fearless. She wanted to be a wolf, but she could see the fear in her own eyes. It would not do to be afraid. She had to be strong in this place to survive. She straightened her back and raised her chin, looking defiantly at her own reflection. The door creaked open behind her, and she saw a flash of blonde hair. Arya spun around as the Queen Regent herself entered the room. Her grip tightened on the hairbrush. It was the only thing she had. Play their game, Sansa's words flashed through her head. Otherwise you'll suffer. Your Grace. Arya forced the words from her lips. They tasted bitter. I was not expecting you. Clearly, Cersei said. Courtesies don't sit right on your lips, do they? Lady Arya? No, Your Grace. Septa Morden always said the same. Arya replied, What brings you here? Cersei smiled. It was perhaps the least convincing expression Arya had ever seen. Perhaps I wanted to welcome you back to King's Landing and make sure you were comfortable. Arya could not keep the incredulous look off her face. No, you know better than that, don't you? Cersei asked. The gleam in her green eyes made her smile sharp as a razor. My father insists that you are important to keep the peace. I can understand that perhaps, but that does not mean I have to pretend to like you. Arya raised her chin. Of course not. Then why are you here? To give you a warning, Cersei said. I know you're wild and I know that you must be plotting something in that head of yours. Your father died here. Perhaps you want revenge for that. But if you come anywhere near my children, I will have your throat cut. She was short and to the point. Arya almost preferred her this way. Better an open threat than false flattery. Do you really think I want anything to do with Joffrey? Arya asked. I'll stay clear of him, if I can. I'll stay clear of Tommen as well, if it please your grace. She spoke her courtesies with the sweetest lilt she could manage. Sansa always made that sort of thing sound so much more convincing. It would please me, Cersei said. I would do anything to protect my family, Lady Arya, even the most distasteful acts. Your father tested me once. I don't recommend you make the same mistakes. I won't, Arya said. I plan to learn from my father's mistakes, your grace, because if I move against you, I will be smarter, she thought. I would do anything for my family as well. Good, Cersei said flatly. Then we are at an understanding. She swept back toward the door. You may tell my father that we made peace. Then I won't hear any more about it from him. He won't believe it if I do, Arya thought, but she did not speak those thoughts. Very well, she tilted her head to the side. Your grace? Cersei stopped and looked back at her. Yes, Lady Arya, if you don't pretend to like me, does that mean I don't have to pretend to like you? Arya asked. There was ice beneath the sweetness of her tone. Ice and steel, and Cersei clearly heard it. Her eyes narrowed, and her lip curled back in disgust. Then she left, slamming the door behind her. Is that a yes or a no? Arya thought. Arya released the hairbrush, still clutched in her left hand. It had left marks on her palm from how hard she gripped it. There were many threats to Arya in this place, but Cersei was at the top of the list of dangers. Just as well, she was also at the top of Arya's list of names. Tywin Lannister had taken his place as the hand of the king, and so Tyrion fell from his rare chance at power. He always knew that his reign was temporary. His father had given him the position, and his father now took it away. Tyrion felt the ache of the loss like the throb of the still healing wound across his face. Jay wanted them to leave. She was a smart woman, and recognized that there was little left for Tyrion in this place. Yet he couldn't leave. He clung to this damn city, even after it had rejected him, because maybe, just maybe, he would find a taste of power again. Pathetic, Tyrion thought. I really am pathetic. Still, he found himself, in his pathetic state, walking toward the Tower of the Hand to speak with his father. He needed something to do. He needed to make his case that he could still be useful to the Lannister family. He had done his part to protect the city, so where was his reward for that? As he approached the tower, he heard a rather loud conversation inside. At first he thought it must be Cersei snapping at their father again. But no, the voice was too young for that. She's going to murder me, in my sleep. Even if I don't go near Joffrey, she is going to murder me in my sleep. Then she'll find a way to blame me for it. Really? And Cersei told me that she made peace with you. Of course she did. She wanted me to tell you the same. But you're not. You told me not to lie to you. It's good to know you're listening. Tyrion peered through the crack in the door. His father sat at his old desk, but in front of him paced a girl with dark brown hair and the pale skin of the north. Arya Stark. It must be. He had heard of her arrival in the city because Cersei had raved to him about it as well. She was a ward of Lannister now, a hostage. Yet, for being a hostage, she did not seem to measure her words around his father. She did not seem afraid of him at all. I only mention it because I don't want you to think everything is solved, Arya said. And if I do die, you'll know who to blame. I never thought everything was solved. Nothing I say could keep Cersei from hating you. I only want her to be a little quieter about it. The Tywin set down his quill. You're not very good at hiding your feelings either, Lady Arya. Can you blame me, my lord? It does not matter if I blame you or not. It's true. Tyrion thought as if he had stepped into a dream. Tyrion did not usually entertain this kind of talk from anyone. From his family, sometimes, depending on his mood. But not usually. He seemed almost amused. A few times Tyrion thought he saw the shadow of a smile on his lips. It was a humorless, biting smile. But still, a rare thing for Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion almost never saw such an expression. Tyrion accidentally opened the door a bit more, and it creaked. Arya Stark spun around, like a wolf searching for a threat. Tyrion sighed and opened the door the rest of the way. Forgive me if I'm interrupting. You're not, Tywin said. His expression became cold again at Tyrion's arrival. Tyrion, this is Arya Stark, the new Lannister ward. Yes, I have heard. Tyrion approached her, holding out his hand. My lady, we did not speak when I last visited Winterfell. Because I'm small and no one notices me, Arya said, accepted his hand. Well, I can sympathize with that. I'm smaller than you, as you can see. Tyrion said. It's refreshing, Arya said. Everyone around here is too tall. Tyrion grinned. This girl was certainly nothing like her sister. She was far more honest, and far less careful. It could get her killed in this place. I must agree with you, Lady Stark. Tywin cleared his throat, leaning forward. Did you come with a purpose, Tyrion? I usually do, Tyrion said, releasing Arya's hand. We don't speak in our leisure time, father. His father regarded him coldly for a long moment before looking to Arya. You may go. Arya nodded once. My lords. Then she slipped from the room. She's quite something, Tyrion commented. Different from her sister. Courtesies don't become her. Did you come here to discuss the Stark girl? Tywin asked. No. I was just making small talk. Tyrion sat down in front of him. I came to discuss the future. That's a vague purpose. My future then. Tywin laughed once, though there was no joy in it. You want to know if there is still a position of power for you here, now that I have taken back my seat as Hand of the King. That's the short way of putting it.
Yes, Tyrion said.
I did prove myself capable of handling the responsibility. You brought a whore to my bed. Is that what you call being capable? I did not spend all of my time in bed or with whores. Tyrion muttered. I kept Joffrey in line as best as I could, and when he cowered in the keep, I held the gates at the Battle of Blackwater. I bled for this family. And you want a reward? Yes, Tyrion said. Is that truly so much to ask, father? For some sort of recognition? Jugglers and singers ask for applause. You are a Lannister, Tywin said flatly. Do you think I demanded a garland of roses every time I suffered a wound on the battlefield? Tyrion clenched his jaw. No. His father did not ever seem to have any need for the recognition of others. But he did not know what it was like to be looked down upon every single day. People respected him. Tyrion would not need rewards either, if he was simply respected. I have 7 kingdoms to rule now. Tywin said, You may have bled for this family, but you would have died had the Tyros not arrived at my orders. While you were whoring and playing at power, I made peace with the North, crushed Stannis' armies, and now the Greyjoys are on the run. The War of 5 Kings is over. Were we having a competition? Forgive me, I would have brought more of my accomplishments, Tyrion said, staring at his hands. What do you want, Tyrion? Tyrion raised his voice then, at the edge of his patience.
I want what is mine.
By right. Tyrion matched his father's volume. Jaime may be your eldest son, but he surrendered his right to your lands and titles when he donned the white cloak. I am therefore your heir. You can't deny that. I don't ask for a bloody garland of roses. I won't even ask for your gratitude, because I know I'll never get that. But I do ask for what is mine. So, you want Casterly Rock? Tywin said. With Jaime in the King's Guard, I am your heir. Tyrion said. I may be a dwarf, but I'm still your son. Yes, Tywin agreed after a pause. You are my son. You killed your mother coming into this world. Do you think I would forget that? Tyrion gritted his teeth together. You always speak of that day as if it was by design. As if I intended. I don't care what you intended. It happened all the same. Tywin snapped. You will be given more suitable quarters for your name and station. You will be given a position of power within this keep, so that you can continue to serve your family. Serve well, and eventually you may have a wife. But nothing on earth can compel me to name you my heir. I will die before I see you turn Casterly Rock into your whorehouse. The words stung Tyrion to his very core. They had always been implied, of course, in his father's cold tone and his icy glares. Yet to hear them out loud still hurt more than Tyrion wanted to admit. Tell me, father, to whom will you give Casterly Rock? I am eager to know, he murmured. That's none of your concern, Tywin said. We'll speak no more of your rights. He spoke with such an air of finality that there was no room to argue further. Go, now. Tyrion could do nothing but obey. His father always claimed the last word, one way or another, and Tyrion did not want to hear any more words from him that day, even when everything else seemed relatively hopeless. Tyrion could still count on Jaime. Having his brother back at the keep, safe and sound, was a bright spot to his loss of power. Of everyone in his family, Jaime was the only one who truly liked him. His father and sister had rejected him long ago, but Jaime taught him to ride and how to speak with charm. It was a relief to see him again. His time as a northern prisoner had clearly weakened him. He was thinner and paler, with some scars lingering on his face, but he was still Jaime with his usual easy smiles. He needed a few of those after his conversation with their father. So, how did it go? Jaime asked.
About how you'd expect, Tyrion said.
That bad? Adame poured them both wine and handed him a cup. Tyrion drained it in a few gulps, and he raised an eyebrow. Worse? Always worse. Tyrion handed his cup to Jaime to be filled again. He wanted to drink his weight in wine. Even with the white cloak on, he still seems to think of you as his heir. I don't want the rock, Jaime said. I would much prefer you have it. Don't tell our Lord Father. Then he might hate you as much as me, Tyrion said. Well, not quite. Perhaps we should employ the new ward to talk to him for us, from now on. Jaime said. He doesn't seem to mind when she argues. Tyrion leaned forward. So you noticed it too. Am I blind and deaf? Of course I noticed it. Jaime shook his head. I've witnessed a few of their conversations. And he kept her as his cupbearer for a few months, before the war ended. Clearly he enjoys the girl. But why? Tyrion said. We simply must figure out her secrets. Hubing grinned, hoping to learn from her. Why not? Tyrion said. I'll take whatever help I can get at this point. Tyrion clasped his wine glass in both hands. Let us think. What does she have in common with people that Father likes? First we have to identify who Father likes. Jaime said. True. A difficult task. Tyrion tapped the rim of his cup as he thought. Uncle Kevin. Yes, he likes Kevin. Jaime said. Aunt Genna too. He always allowed her to talk back to him. I think he likes our aunt better than any of our uncles in fact. He likes all of his siblings well enough, though few of their spouses, Tyrion acknowledged. What do they all have in common? Jaime asked. Well, they are family, Tyrion said. I suppose they're not afraid of our father. They grew up with him. Maybe that makes it more difficult to fear someone. I don't fear Cersei for that very reason.
Really?
I fear her sometimes, Jaime said mildly. Tyrion tilted his head to the side. Is she not happy to see you returned? Happy, maybe, but also drunk and very angry. Jaime glanced down at Tyrion's nearly empty cup of wine. You both drink too much these days. Tell her that she's reminding you of me. Maybe she'll stop. Tyrion finished the wine and went to pour more. Back to the matter in question. Our aunt and uncles are different from Lady Arya, as they are siblings. This is true. So who else does he like? Jaime asked. Well, you and Cersei, of course, Tyrion said. It does not seem like that sometimes. Jaime said. If you could hear the difference in how he spoke to us, you would know it. Tyrion said. You're the golden son, Jaime. You can get away with nearly anything, and you'll still be the favorite. He smiled ruefully. Even if he does get angry, he certainly shouted at me much louder than he has shouted at Arya Stark, Jaime said. Because he cares, perhaps. Yes. He has high expectations of you. Tyrion snapped his fingers. Maybe that's it. What? Jaime asked. High expectations. Our Lord Father may love you and Cersei, but he has dreadfully high expectations for both of you. No offense, but you constantly fall short. Tyrion said. He has high expectations for many people, but not for the Stark girl. Jaime said. No, Tyrion said. He had no expectations for her from the beginning. It makes it very easy for her to exceed them. Perhaps that is the key, Jaime said. But then Father always had low expectations for you as well. Tyrion smiled bitterly. I'm a special case, Jaime. He hates me so much that even if I rose above his standards, he would never admit it. He raised his glass. So there's no hope for me. Jaime plucked the glass from his hand before he could take a drink and set it out of his reach. You've had enough. I don't think so. I'd like a lot more, Tyrion said. To hell with what Father thinks of you, Jaime said. The way I hear it, you did save this city. You did a respectable job of handling Joffrey as well. Whether Father acknowledges or not, this city owes you their lives. Isn't that enough for you to know? Was it enough for you to know? Tyrion murmured. When they called you Kingslayer, Jaime looked down at the table with a heavy sigh. Well, it helped at least. Tyrion stood in his chair, leaning forward and plucking his cup back from Jaime. Cheers, he raised his glass. To impossible expectations. Jaime half smiled and tapped his cup against Tyrion's. Let's see how long the Stark girl can exceed them. While Arya was a hostage, she was allowed a certain amount of freedom. She did not have a guard standing over her at every hour of the day. For instance, they guarded her door at night, but left her be otherwise. She had asked Tywin why this was shortly after her arrival. Why am I not under constant watch? Would you like to be? No, that's not what I mean. What if I tried to escape? Tywin had gotten an almost amused gleam in his eye at this. And put your family in danger? Would you really do such a thing, Lady Stark? Arya understood the message loud and clear. She was here to keep her family in line, but Tywin also meant to use them to keep her in line. If she did escape, he might decide to strike first, before the North could rise up again. She would never give him an excuse to do that, so she would stay within the castle walls. Besides her nighttime guards, she had a handmaid named Shae. She was pretty, and her accent hinted that she came from across the narrow sea. She had served Sansa during her stay at King's Landing. At first, Arya did not trust her. She thought she must be a spy from the Queen, designated to keep an eye on any Stark girl within the keep. Sansa was gone, and now her assignment was Arya. But Shae was too free with her words to be one of Cersei's spies. Cersei would only employ those who acted like perfect ladies. But Shae spoke her mind. Your hair is too short for me to do anything, she said. Short like a boy's. Then don't do anything to it, Arya said. I can brush it myself, you know. Then what work would I have to do? Shae asked, picking up the brush and combing through Arya's tangles. She winced. Will you grow it out? I expect they'll want me to. Who's they? The Lannisters, Arya said. I'm a ward of their house. I'm sure they'll want me to play a little lady. Your sister had to do the same, Shae acknowledged. Sansa doesn't have to play at being a perfect lady. She is, Arya protested. She's a lady maybe, but it's hard to be perfect, in a place where your family died. She raked her brush through a particularly difficult tangle, and Arya winced. Your sister had a difficult time here. Arya glanced down from her reflection in the mirror, feeling a rush of guilt. Of course Sansa had a difficult time here. Lady or not, she must have wanted to claw the king's eyes out or throttled Cersei with her bare hands. She's better at pretending, she said at last. I've never been very good at it. Then learn, Shae said. She could learn to play the role with practice, but that did not mean she had to be totally docile. In her visit to the Chamber of the Hand, Arya made note of Tywin's many boxes, and knew in her heart that Needle must be somewhere inside. She memorized the times in which he went to the small council meetings with his guards. She memorized the opportunities when the Chamber of the Hand was left open. He never left anything sensitive lying about. He finished his letters when he began writing them, and sent them off shortly afterwards. It was not his letters that she wanted anyway, but a possession of hers that he kept safely tucked away somewhere. In the short window of time she had, she searched the boxes. When she found nothing, she was always careful to put everything back exactly the way she found it. Until one day, she clasped the needle's hilt in her hand again. She let out a breath of relief and drew her sword from the trunk. Then she carefully shifted the other belongings to make sure everything looked organized again. She scurried down the hall with Needle stuffed down the back of her dress. She would have to find her own hiding place for her sword, but at least she could have it near. To hold Jon's gift to her again, it made her feel just a little closer to home. Arya could not hide Needle in her own room. That would be too obvious a place, and she could not deny having stolen it. Then, besides, her room was no place to practice swordplay. It was far too small to really drill without knocking into furniture, and she could not very well carry her sword with her every day when she practiced. Fortunately, she knew of a place where few people went. That was why her father had chosen it for her dancing lessons, so that no one would know. Arya retraced the familiar halls back to the place where Septa Neil used to teach her. This room was large and empty, open to the air. There were gaps in the stone, just large enough to fit Needle. She could cover the gap with some of the old crates that had been rotting in the corner for ages. Then when she needed to practice, she could always find her sword. Arya stepped carefully across the stone floor, turning needle in hand. If she closed her eyes, she could imagine Serio standing before her, chiding her for her lack of practice. You must practice every day, or your body forgets. When your body forgets, it stumbles when you need it most, and you die. His voice was so clear in her head. She could remember almost every word he ever said to her. What do we say to the god of death? Not today, Arya whispered. Good. Begin. Arya started with the basics. The footwork. She practiced all of the forms again. Her body had not yet forgotten the stances, even though some of them were clumsy. She had little time to practice, as a prisoner. When the footwork felt sound again, she added needle to the mix. She lunged and stabbed. then retreated. She blocked one strike, then a second. She imagined she was fighting Meryn Trant, the man who had killed Sario. She was back in this room, on that day. But this time she did not run. She fought with Sario, and beat the soldiers back. Not today. Not today. She stabbed out another opponent, then spun around. Her blade clanged off of another sword. A real sword. With a real owner. Sarah Jaime Lannister smirked down at her. Should you have a sword, Lady Arya? Arya paled and stepped back a few feet, hiding Needle behind her back as if he hadn't already seen it. It's mine. I didn't steal it. I believe you. You're clearly familiar with the weapon, Jaime said. But it must have been taken from you when you were caught. Arya swallowed hard. Please, don't tell your father. Anya nodded knowingly. So you stole it back from him. I didn't steal. It is mine. Yours or not. He's going to notice eventually. Then let him find out eventually and not now. Jaime laughed once. Laughter came easier to him than it did to his father. What do you want with a sword, my lady? Planning to skewer someone with it. No, that would be stupid. Arya said. Everyone would know it was me. She lifted her chin. I wanted to practice again. It's been too long since I practiced. I see. Jaime circled around her, turning his sword in hand. And what would you do with all of this practice? Do you plan to become a knight? Arya's eyes narrowed. Don't mock me, sir. I'm not. You know, I was returned to my father by a woman who was close to a knight, Jaime said. Arya wondered for a moment if he was referring to Brienne, her sister's new guard. Of course, she was taller than most men by quite a bit. You're much smaller. I can be quick, Arya retorted. Undoubtedly. Jaime stopped in front of her again, raising his sword a bit. Well, let's see how good you are. Prasin Zorg tightened on Needle, fearing some sort of trick. I'm not sure. I won't cut you, Jaime promised. The slight challenge banished Arya's uncertainty. He doubted her skills. She could hear it. Her eyes narrowed, and she raised her sword. I won't cut you either. He lied Zadin and grinned and stepped to the side. She mirrored him, keeping light on her feet. When he suddenly stepped in the other direction, she changed course. Your footwork is good, Jaime said. My teacher said footwork was one of the most important skills. Arya said. It could make the difference between living and dead. Your teacher was right, Jaime said. His eyes seemed to flash and he flicked out his sword. Arya parried just in time. He struck out again, and she blocked again. He taught you reflexes too. Yes, Arya said. She realized you was testing her abilities. He inherited that from his father at least. Everyone in this place always seemed to be testing her. He also taught me never to underestimate an enemy, my lord. Yoin raised an eyebrow. He heard the challenge loud and clear. Best take his advice then, he said. He struck again. This time, Jaime did not pause between blows. He rained strike after strike down on her as she blocked and dodged as fast as she could. She knew he was still holding back quite a lot, but at least he was giving her a challenge. The Kingslayer made it all look so easy. He was backing her up toward the wall. Never let your enemy back you into a corner. That corner will become your grave. She used her small size to her advantage, ducking under his next blow and spinning around him, away from the wall. Smart, Jaime said, but do you plan on ducking and dodging forever? You won't win that way. Arya's eyes narrowed as she avoided his next blow. Then she went for a lunge. It was a mistake. Jaime was expecting the move, and he caught her wrist, twisting her sword from her grasp. In the same motion, he knocked her flat with the hilt of his blade, and she gasped for breath as she hit the ground. The next thing she knew, he stood over her, his sword aimed at her neck. Don't let your opponent bait you into an attack, Jaime said, especially when you know they have more experience. Arya released a breath. My teacher said something similar once. You clearly had a good teacher. Jaime inspected Needle. She felt nervous not having it in her hand. What if he took it? You're quick and you're a small target. It helps make up for your weakness. It's not my fault I don't grow. Arya said. I didn't say it was. It's not your fault you were born a woman either. Jaime offered her a hand. She took it, and he pulled her back to her feet. You're about as good as I was at your age. Really? Arya asked. Yes, Jaime said. Smaller, but good. I didn't see a real battle until I was 15. Arya dropped her gaze. She had already killed twice. and arranged the deaths of 2 others with Jaqen. Jaime did not miss her look. You've already had your first kill, haven't you? Yes, Arya said. A boy who wanted to turn me in when I first escaped from the keep, and a soldier who tried to take advantage of me while I was cupbearer to your father. Well, Jaime offered her back needle. Being willing to kill is half of the game of fighting. If you're not willing to take a life, your opponent will take yours. Simple as that. Arya gratefully took her sword. He wasn't going to keep it then. She worried he might take it back to his father. How did you find me here today? Sarah's? Oh, I wasn't looking for you, Jaime said. Actually, I was looking for somewhere quiet to practice. My skills have gotten rusty since I spent so long as your brother's prisoner. I didn't want to practice for everyone to see, so I came here. You don't seem rusty, Arya said. Jaime smirked. That's because I'm very good. Even out of practice, I'm better than most men. At my best, there are only a few men in the 7 kingdoms who can match me. My teacher said arrogance is a costly flaw in battle. Arya said, It's not costly if it's true. Jaime paced around her, flipping his sword in hand a few times. You know, your father could nearly match me. He killed Sir Arthur Dayne. He was very good. He didn't like you, Arya said. Jaime smiled bitterly, slicing twice at the air. The sword seemed to weigh nothing in his hand. It was like an extension of his arm. Arya had always wanted to see Jaime Lannister fight up close when she was younger. She wanted to watch all of the great swordsmen of Westeros in battle. No, Lord Eddard made that very clear. He said, you were a man without honor. So, have many others. That is why so many call me Kingslayer. I didn't understand it, Arya admitted. Jaime stopped in the mid-swing, glancing over his shoulder. What didn't you understand? In the war, my father was fighting against the Mad King. He wanted to kill him for hurting our family. That's why the war started, Arya said. But he said he did not like you because you killed the Mad King. It never made sense to me. He said I was too young to understand. Jaime lowered his sword slowly. And how did your father explain it to you? He said you made a vow, Arya said. A holy vow to protect the king, which meant that was your duty, no matter what. Even if the king was mad. A man who breaks a vow cannot be trusted. That does sound like him, Jaime said. Tell me, Lady Arya, were you in the city when your father was killed? Arya swallowed hard. Memories of that day welled up inside of her, burning through her chest. She was there and remembered every detail of the Septon, of the mob, of Joffrey screaming for her father's death. Bring me his head. Yes, she said at last. I was watching from the statue of Bowler, hiding amongst the mob. It must have been an awful day for you, Jaime said. Imagine for a moment you were standing on that platform with your father. What would you have done if the king gave you the executioner's sword and bid you to bring him your father's head? Arya barred her teeth at the mere suggestion. I would have killed the king instead, in an instant. What if you made a holy vow to do as the king said? Jaime asked. To protect the king, would that have made a difference? No, Arya muttered. If anyone had asked me to kill me, father, I would have cut them down. Vile or no vile. Jaime smiled bitterly. Then I suppose in my position, you would have made the same choice. Then without another word he turned and left her there. Arya watched him go, confused by his response. Her father had said nothing of why Amaxini killed the king. She assumed that he just didn't like Arias and decided he did not want to serve him anymore. Had the Mad King threatened his father? Had he asked Jaime to kill him? She shook her head. It really didn't matter why Jaime Lannister killed the Mad King. Her father was a good judge of people. If he said Jaime was dishonorable, then he was. After all, he was a Lannister. She could not allow weakness around him or anyone else. She would learn from her father's mistakes. Arya continued to accidentally run into Jaime over those next few months. Sometimes in the halls and sometimes when she was practicing. When she did, it was hard not to speak to him. Her hatred of his family name, mixed with her childhood fascination with great warriors, and her desire to learn from someone so gifted at swordplay. He did not discourage her practices, and in fact seemed intrigued by her dedication. Sometimes he sparred with her to test her out. Try as she might, she could not hate him. The same could be said for his younger brother Tyrion. The dwarf always made conversation with her when they happened to cross paths, always with a friendly smile on his face. Lady Stark, I see that you're still alive. My father has not bored you to death yet. He offered to teach her how to play Cyves. a game popular Dorne in order to keep her entertained. He said it grew boring only playing against Bronn, his sellsword for hire who often traveled with him. Arya turned down the invitation the first time, but she longed for something else to fill her days and she accepted his second offer. Better to know all the Lannisters well if I want to survive, Arya told herself. Scythus was a game of strategy, a game of calculated risks and great rewards. One had to be smart in how they placed their pieces and be willing to make smart sacrifices if they wanted to win. It was something like a game of war, but without the real bloodshed. Arya found it very stimulating and frustrating at the same time. Stimulating because she loved strategy, frustrating because Tyrion beat her every game. You are improving greatly, Lady Stark, Tyrion said after her latest defeat. The matches last much longer now. Arya sighed, plucking one of the extra pieces from the box. It was a king piece with a cracked crown. She wondered why he even kept the extra piece when it was damaged. I still lose. Just more slowly. Because you need more practice. Be patient. Tyrion grinned. I expected you to be quite terrible at this game, but you're already exceeding my expectations. Arya glared at him. And why did you expect me to be terrible? Why? Because you're a Stark. Starks are a straightforward lot, and candid people do not do well at this game. Arya's eyes narrowed. My brother was beating your father, quite soundly in battle, until your father used me against him. Tyrion raised his wine glass. Very true. I think I like this new generation of Starks. Why? We're the enemies of your family, Arya pointed out. Well, I only faced the Starks in the field once, and I was knocked out for much of it, Tyrion said. In any case, we're at peace now. We're not technically enemies, and I like anyone who can show up my father every once in a while. Arya studied Tyrion. You don't like your father, do you? No. And he doesn't like me. You've probably noticed. He's very honest about it. Tyrion said, Lord Tywin does not seem to like anyone, but yes, I have noticed. Arya observed him carefully. Why does he hate me so much? Tyrion finished for her. I'm a big disappointment. You see, I'm a dwarf. That's quite a crime in the noble family of Lannister. To make matters worse, my mother died bringing me into this world. He never forgave me for that, and he's been gathering other reasons to hate me ever since, so he makes himself seem more reasonable. But everyone knows why he truly despises me. Arya sighed. For something you can't control. My mother was like that with my half-brother Jon. Yes. Jon Snow, Tyrion said. I wondered how welcome he was in the house. Father was always kind to him, Arya said. So were the rest of us. Well, Sansa was not very kind to him, but I was. Robb was. Bran and Rickon adored him too. My mother hated him. Not because he had done anything wrong, but because he wasn't hers. My mother is a kind woman, but she couldn't pretend even for a moment that she did not loathe Jon. Yes, your mother is a kind woman, Tyrion agreed. My father doesn't even have that going for him. You can imagine my situation. At least he doesn't particularly like anyone else, Arya said. I'm not sure if he's capable of liking anyone. Tyrion's mouth twitched. Oh, Lady Arya, I know you're new to this place, but you'll learn to tell the difference in time. My father likes some people. He's just not obvious about it. Arya nodded once. I would be interested to see that. I'd say you already have multiple times, Tyrion said. Arya gave him a look. What do you mean? Never mind, Tyrion said. Let's play another game. I'm in the mood to beat you again. Arya sat forward in her chair. Perhaps this will be time that I win. It was not the time that she won, but she didn't mind. Tyrion of all the Lannisters seemed the easiest to like. If his father rejected him, he couldn't be all that bad, and he hadn't done any plotting against her family. She did not want to become complacent in this place, but as time went on, she was adapting, she was learning. Just as Shay suggested, could she really be blamed for that?